I called out my husband for continually trying to do butt stuff with me against my will. We've been married 17 years, 3 dating, 20 years together. I have always said I never ever wanted to do butt stuff. No judgment, it's just something I personally don't want any part of. Our marriage has been struggling for years. He becomes incredibly defensive when I bring up my feelings. He's avoidant. He turns around issues on me somehow. And flat out lies, try to makes believe I don't have the story right, or I'm confused every time I bring something to his attention. One night we were drinking, our kids were at my parents', and I drank too much. I hadn't drank in a long time, so it hit me harder, and we ended up doing butt stuff. He kept accidentally almost going in the back door, and at some point I told him we could. I kept saying it hurt, and he just kept saying he'd go slower. Needless to say, he finished, and I got up immediately and went to the bathroom to shower. I started crying. I felt upset and violated, but felt crazy because how could I feel that way if I said yes? He came into the shower with me, and I immediately avoided him. He came out after showering, and I just bawled, saying I never wanted to do that. Why did he let me do that when I'm so drunk? He said he was sorry, and I let it go because, again, I gave consent, so I guess I need to get over it. The next morning, I just kept crying, felt sore and disgusting, and I told him I never ever wanted to do that again, that anything but stuff related was off limits for me. He said, okay. Yet a week later, while doing it from behind, he started touching and trying to play with my butthole. I immediately told him I didn't like it, nicely, to which he kept doing and asked me, "Are you sure?" "I think you do." I felt very uncomfortable and said, "Yes, I'm sure." Next time we do it, when we go from behind, you guessed it, he starts doing it again. I addressed it again, feeling so uncomfortable, he now tells me, "I know you like it." I froze momentarily and said, "No, I don't think I do." He kept telling me I did. After that second time, I decided to talk to him about it outside of the bedroom. I tried not to be judgmental or make it awkward, and I asked where that came from and why he was doing it. He told me yet again because he knows it turns me on, and he likes turning me on. And I said very nicely, "It doesn't do anything for me, and in fact, I don't really like it." He didn't respect my answer. He told me again he thought I did. To which I said no. He continued to do it. And at one point, I actually got pissed and called him out outside of SEC and said it was messed up. I kept asking him not to, and he keeps doing it. He very avoidant and basically didn't respond. It was awkward to bring up during a fight, but I wanted it know I was serious and didn't want it to continue. I totally thought it was dealt with. But no, it's continued to happen, and sometimes I just freeze up now, and I lose all arousal, can't orgasm, he finishes, and I just feel so upset, and like if I bring it up, it won't even matter, because it hasn't. I always used to be able to orgasm, it's getting harder. For a number of reasons, but the issues in our marriage are now affecting how my body physically feels during dirty times. Last night we were fighting over him avoiding me for the last 2 days after he hurt my feelings about something else unrelated, and I called him out for never taking accountability, that somehow it always gets turned around on me. I said, for example, every time we do the dirty, you do this thing I've explicitly told you over and over is off limits. And it started right after we did butt stuff, and I've asked nicely. I've been stern. I've even gotten mad, and you keep doing it. And this was his response. "Well then, why don't you stop me if you don't like it?" I lost it. I yelled, "I have asked you to stop." Did you not hear the words that came before this, where I explained how I've asked, told you, gotten mad at you, and told you I don't like that, and it's off limits? To which he said, "Yeah, a long time ago." And I kid you not, this continued on for over an hour with him repeatedly telling me, "Then why didn't you tell me to stop?" As in the last few times I've just gone numb to it, which I ended up getting so sick of repeating the same answer, I said I don't know, name. Why do assault victims say no, and eventually stop because it doesn't make them stop? No light bulb moment of self-awareness, just defensiveness and blaming me like I'm overreacting. Our fight continued to escalate when I said I felt like he was grooming his own wife to get me to do butt stuff again, which is why this started after we did butt stuff. He had never, ever in all these years touched me there, and now it's every time. He got very upset and defensive at me using the word grooming, but I said if the shoe fits. You psychologically tell me and try to convince me I like something when I have sternly told you I do not. Like an attempt to make me think maybe I do like butt stuff, when I know I don't. And if he just says it long enough, maybe I'll believe it. And if he just keeps crossing my boundary and doing it, I'll stop bringing it up. I got so mad he kept defending it, I said, yeah, why don't we see a marriage counselor and see if they agree with you that I should have just said no again and again? Our fight ended when I said the way he was acting was so grotesque, that he couldn't just take accountability, that he was acting on a way I'm never going to get over. He slept out on the couch, and now I am just sick to my stomach that I'm realizing he literally made it my fault. Am I crazy, or is that behavior just insane?
She posts an update after some time to explain how or if the situation changed. Let's dive in.
A few months back, I posted about my husband during touching my butthole while doing it, and how I had already and continued to communicate I didn't like it. It didn't turn me on. I didn't want to do anything, including touching my butthole. I started off talking to him nicely in the bedroom. It continued. I talked him outside of the bedroom calmly, and even got super pissed and yelled at him to make it clear after doing the dirty when we were talking, and he wasn't listening. I never expected that last post to get so many comments, and it really just confirmed to me my anger and pain were valid, and I told him I wouldn't sleep with him again or be intimate until he spoke with his therapist and could take some accountability. That was months ago. He already sees a therapist, and suddenly he canceled every appointment. He claimed it was scheduling, but I know he was avoiding talking about it. Yesterday, he, after 2 months, kept a session and told me he'd talk about it and then we could talk about it. He avoided all day, and I gave him time and space, and this morning when we woke up he started to tell me was sorry, he was wrong, it was hurtful, but he never intended to hurt me, and intentions matter. This triggered a huge reaction because I can't begin to process how your spouse telling you over and over they don't like something, even yelling at you about how you don't listen and don't care to stop over your own pleasure, could still say you didn't intend to hurt me? Yes, you did. Your pleasure, my pain or hurt. I've asked him to move out, which is mind-blowing whiplash because we had such a great weekend as a family, and I know abusive relationships are never all bad, and that's what makes them so hard to leave, but I cannot begin to process how even with us going back and forth, and me explaining, I told you for months, I yelled, screamed, cried, communicated clearly. I didn't like it, didn't want to do it, to never do it again. And then when we'd be sleeping with each other, he'd start touching me there again. Doesn't equal meaning or intending to hurt me? My sister and I were inappropriately abused as children by an older cousin. I did tell an adult. He was charged, arrested, trail, spent years in jail. My sister and I both received counseling. So yes, I have triggers, but I don't think I'm overreacting. I don't believe he was honest with his therapist, because what professional would allow him to honestly use the excuse he didn't intend to hurt me? Did he rape me? No, absolutely not. But he crossed a line, and a line we had already discussed, he knew. So how on earth can you say your intentions were never to hurt me? He is avoidant and shut off his feelings because he doesn't want to self-reflect on how he feels about his own behavior. Instead, he sugarcoats everything, to the degree it doesn't even make sense. I truly feel as my own husband assaulted me in the bedroom over and over. I've communicated this to him, and he still says it wasn't intentional. Then what the frick is intentional?